that is every month we are organizing this Antardrishti session. Very religiously, we are organizing in the different, and that this particular Antardrishti series is bringing lot many leadership insights, which the top management, senior management people, they are compelled to think and also reflect on their leadership style. So this time, as already we are having a session on design thinking and the innovation. And I like to welcome all the Chief General Manager of Steel Authority of India Limited, Executive Directors of Steel Authority of India Limited. Also, I like to welcome today's distinguished speaker, Professor Sabyasachi Sinha. The people who are oldies, they passed out from IIM Lucknow, they always remember Professor Sinha for his great academic contribution at IIM Lucknow. So, as Rajesh has already mentioned, he is expertise in the area of the strategy, entrepreneurship, and innovation at IIM Lucknow. And we will have a lot of insight, especially in the area of design thinking and the innovation. Sir, will be very grateful if you can share your rich experience of role of design thinking in driving the business innovation and solving the complex organizational challenges. And also, if you can share some of the case studies or the practical examples that inspires our leader to have a great journey in the creative zone. So with this, once again, I like to welcome all of you in this Antardrishti session.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Over to Mr. Rajesh.
Thank you, sir. While I just listen to sir, I will just take a couple of minutes. In fact, I will try to keep it very short introduction of our esteemed speaker today, Professor Sabyasachi Sinha. Welcome, sir. Sir is a professor of strategy, entrepreneurship, and innovation at IIM Lucknow. Sir is a fellow in PhD from IIM Ahmedabad and also holds an MBA from IIT. Prior to joining academia, Sir has worked with prestigious organizations like Nestle, 3M, where he has practical experience in the areas of marketing and business strategy. As Atanu sir mentioned, and Sir is a celebrated researcher and also a teacher with work published in top international journals, and his case is also featured in Harvard Business School Publishing. Sir has also authored a best-selling book on entrepreneurship and is currently mentoring several startups and also executives, sir. Sir, we are honored to host you today, sir. And over to you, sir, please. Professor Sinha.
Yeah, thank you so much for that generous introduction. And before I start, let me also express my thanks and gratitude for inviting me, and giving the opportunity to interact with all of you. So in general, our arm for industry interaction is not just to designate knowledge, but also learn from you. So it's a arm which helps us to also test that whatever we are sensing through our research or our thoughts, is it really applicable, making sense, and at the same time get a sensing of how things are happening in the industry. So beside sharing something with you, each of these opportunities are also a great learning opportunity. So thank you so much, Sanjay ji and Atanu ji and all of you who have been part of organizing this. At the same time, I must also thank all the others who have joined at a time which is like, the work time is over, and then from 5 onwards, you have decided to, listen and sit back and hear. And I just hope that the additional hour that you're spending becomes much more meaningful and leaves you with a little more thought to deep dive into your inside, which is the idea of Antardrishti. I'll come to one of the interesting connotation that you could find while you were talking about Antardrishti with the topic that we are discussing. So I'll see how the discussion is going. I have a few slides made, but I might skip some depending on how I am spending on the different slides, and we'll keep some time. If in case you have questions, we can take up questions at the end. However, in between, if they are pressing questions, there is no harm in taking them in between as well. So again, before starting, thanks all of you for giving this opportunity. This topic, design thinking and innovation, started with a little bit of jealousy in me. So if you see that one of your co-participants is also named as Sabyasachi, and my name is Sabyasachi. So, as this another Sabyasachi, who is has a surname of Mukherjee, was emerging. So I was being questioned on, do you also design? Now I could not now go to fashion school and start designing. So I thought there is an interesting topic which is emerging in the domain of innovation management, which is design thinking. So why not focus and build something on that? At least it will help me to, kaate ka takkar with Sabyasachi Mukherjee. Right? So that is one of the genesis with which this started. Second genesis is that I was in Ahmedabad and we had a lot of interaction with another school called NID, National Institute of Design. And very interestingly, while business was not looking into this domain called design thinking, the designers, from where this whole idea of design thinking comes in, they use it in their product design and ideation process. The essence, the basic essence of design thinking, which you use today in business, comes from design schools. And a part of this interest also developed by through different interactions with colleagues at NID. Now, it is important to understand why I brought in this story, because when we talk about innovation, it is critical sometimes that our thoughts are triggered rather by outside triggers than what is there inside. So it is that is very, very important. And many of these ideas which comes to us, which is not inherently of that domain, is going to be triggered by outside. So if SAIL innovates, it is very difficult for SAIL to innovate from triggers within the organization. And I think that's the whole idea why you are organizing talks, and while you are wanting to do Antardrishti, you have decided to call people from outside, because that will throw interesting outside ideas. So I'll bring in some outside ideas from different other fields, because I'm not so much expert in the domain of steel. However, I could gather a couple of examples from steel domain as well, where design thinking kind of concept is getting used. So let me first, build the background why these things are becoming important and critical. So, and I belong primarily to the domain of strategy. So let me take you to a little bit of strategy. So fundamentally, if you see, what is the primary purpose of strategy in a business? Primary purpose of strategy in a business is to meet the strategic objective of growth. And growth is again a fundamental objective of all of us. As individuals, we need to keep on growing, right? And if you see a sense of growth, if you have to grow, so any of us who has already grown up in terms of, a 5 feet 6 inch or a 6 feet or a 80 kilo or whatever, we think that we are not growing, but in order to even survive, internally you are constantly growing. And internally you are growing, meaning if you deep dive into a cellular level, we are taking birth, we are growing, and we are also dying. So if you see that if an organization or an organism has to survive, within that organism, there has to be creation, growth, and death. So when we are talking about managing growth cannot happen by just managing growth. Managing growth can only happen when there is, creation, and it also requires destruction. So the whole process of growth and survival can only be managed by creation, growth, and destruction. It cannot be managed by only managing growth. So today's session is more about creation and innovation. Therefore, I'll focus on that. However, it means I just wanted to point out that this balancing of these three things is only going to make this happen, this idea called growth. Second, if you see that you must have come out of, you must have heard about this word called VUCA. And then there is a little more sweeter word which is coming up called BANI. But I consider both of them largely to be same. Conceptually, they are same, while some people consider to be different. But I consider to be same. Therefore, I have kept only the VUCA stuff, because management experts are experts in putting old wine in the new bottle and keep on framing stuff. So rather than making it complex, let's keep the older acronym only in place. So when we talk about VUCA, you're seeing that more and more organizations are struggling with a lot of micro and macro VUCA elements. And when we say VUCA, what does this 4 words mean? The 4 words mean V is for volatility, meaning that the organizational variables as well as external environmental variables are becoming more and more volatile, meaning they are getting away from the mean, right? Whatever your predicted mean is, it is dancing around that. And whenever something becomes volatile, it becomes difficult to manage such kind of volatile variables, because that makes you take care of that situation by arranging buffers, and buffers are always costly. And second is when you're saying U is something which we have experienced a lot during COVID times. Essentially, U means unknowingness of the variable. So you don't even know what is the mean, how they behave, what is their characteristics, what are their parameters. And planning for U is actually much more difficult than even V. C is the element associated with when we do modeling. You see that a model becomes more complex when there are more number of variables. Today, as organizations and individuals are bombarded with too much of data and information, that is one reason why our models are becoming complex. Earlier also models may have been complex, but today we have more information. And the complexity is in the head of the people, right? So if you have more information, then you're struggling much more. Yesterday, when you did not know much more, you had very limited information, life was easy. Okay. Second, actually things are becoming more complex because things are becoming much more connected. So you saw during COVID times that something happened in Wuhan in November, December. The entire world was at a closure by March. You had an earlier flu, 100 years back around the same time. It had spreaded at a much more lower speed. Why? The world was less connected. So COVID is a fantastic example to tell you how complex the world has become, how connected the world has become. So what I said is that in general, the world is becoming more complex. The business world is becoming more complex. And second, our head is also becoming more complex because we have access to a lot of more data. We are being bombarded with a lot of data. Both is true. Now, because of both of them, our overall modeling of decision-making contexts are becoming very, very complex. Too many variables are there. And the fourth part is ambiguity, which essentially is about not knowing the relationship between these variables. Now, if you see U, C, and A, all of this are emerging more and more because new situations are emerging, more and more new things are emerging, and therefore there is more of U, C, and A along with the V. Now you see that again, when we talk about V, any of you who invest in stock markets do not love so much of V. You want your stock portfolio to keep on growing linearly in the northward directions. However, some of your friends who might be loving more of trading, they actually love V, because the moment there is more of V, they can trade. Without V, trading is very, very difficult. So while some people may find threat in V, others find opportunity in V because they have found out a model of monetizing the volatility. Right? So it is not about whether having volatility or not having volatility. It is about if you have enough exposure to volatility and if you start considering that as an opportunity, you can actually make money or have advantage out of V rather than having disadvantage. Same for U, C, and A. How does for somebody U, C, and A reduces? I usually say that as you are interacting with external environment and future environment, your U's are reducing, while the competitors you may not be because they are not exposed to it. So as and when organizations and individuals engage with unknown variables, complex variables, ambiguous variables, usually dipping their hands in future, their VUCA becomes lesser than rest of the others. So my point that I want to make is obviously innovation and creativity gives you new product processes and outputs, which you can monetize in the market. But more than that, it makes the VUCA-ness in the mind. While the VUCA is a parameter about the external world, but much of it is in the mind. Okay. So the VUCA-ness of a managerial mind is much less when they are experimenting in the context of doing innovation. So that is one of the argument that I want to put. Okay, as as you are getting more exposed to VUCA, it is important that you get exposed to innovation, because getting exposed to innovation will reduce the VUCA-ness in the mind of individuals, of groups of individuals, as well as the organization. The second important issue that organizations are dealing with is, which I said, that it is embracing change and dealing with change. Now, again, as you see that as organizations are getting exposed to more, those which are getting exposed to more and more innovation, they gain a couple of qualities. What are these qualities? Some of these qualities I'll come one by one, but one of these qualities is learning and unlearning. Any company which keeps on launching new product, even their salespeople have to constantly adapt. They have to forget their old pitches and learn a new pitch. They have to search for new customers. So there is, as any company which has a higher innovation index, overall, most of the people in their organization have also a higher learning quotient. Not because more L&D is happening, but more of experimentation is happening there. L&D must also be happening. But because they have to, because of their nature of job, they need to constantly learn and constantly unlearn. And therefore, the organization is also constantly learning and unlearning. Okay. Embracing change is also about forgetting the past in terms of the mindset. So as and when organizations get exposed to more and more change, and they're proactively engaging with change when they're doing innovation, it builds also this ability to forget the past and learn the new, ability to reshape their mindset, which were more conducive to the past. Now, this is what I was talking about so far, which is trying to get adapted, trying to sense that there is a need of change. This is what we academically refer to as a capability called dynamic capability. So you have a lot of capabilities, right? So you would have a production capability, you would have a supply chain capability, you have marketing capability. But today's all these capabilities needs to be constantly reshaped and renewed. And before you reshape and renew the capabilities, it is important that senior people in the organization, obviously everybody else in the organization, but it is more important that senior people in the organization sense the need of that change. The sensing, again, is very, very difficult when the signals are weak, meaning not everybody is sensing. However, it is rather more critical to sense weak signals, because weak signal sensing gives us the opportunity and the time to experiment and fail and spring back and again act. If we are only sensing strong signal, meaning when everybody is sensing and the signal is really strong, it is very difficult to still survive after failing. It doesn't leave you scope to fail. And therefore, it is important to sense weak signal. What do we mean by sensing weak signal? Sensing weak signal means that not realizing cloud is important sitting in 2025. It's about realizing something called cloud is important sitting in 2005. That is sensing it early. That is sensing when it is weak. Because if you sense it in 2005, you can experiment, you can fail, you can again experiment and fail and still come out with something which is still ahead of time and the competitor is still struggling with it. So we are talking about sensing competencies. Then again, another important capability is reconfiguring, which is reconfiguring your competencies, right? So today we are talking about digital transformation. So rather than only doing it physical, what are the smart ways of doing it? What is the digital ways of doing it? Is reconfiguring the competencies, right? And the third is seizing, which is trying to do things in the organization, in production, and kind of output that you're doing and shaping the market. So seizing is essentially shaping the opportunities, whether within the organization or outside the organization. The point again, and what I want to make is there are different ways how dynamic capabilities is shaped, but what we have seen in research and academics, that one of the ways unknowingly dynamic capability gets shaped is by doing innovation. Any organization which is investing in innovation and doing innovation, they have a higher dynamic capability than rest of the others. So far, the two arguments that I've made is that if an organization is doing innovation, they have a greater capacity to manage VUCA, and they have higher dynamic capabilities, and therefore they have a better capacity to manage their growth, and they have a better capacity to embrace change, which they are being subjected to. Now let us come to these three words. Introducing Antardrishti, another word which came to my mind, which I was thinking that it come in the slide was entrepreneurship. You see, I termed it as entrepreneurship because this word, if you break it into pieces, it is coming from the word entrepreneur. Now the French claim it is theirs, the US guys claim it is theirs. Now because of this origin of entrepreneur, we have started claiming it as ours. So, and if you see this element called entrepreneurship is driven a lot by entrepreneur. So how I would put it is that have Antardrishti and do entrepreneurship. Say drive your within and do entrepreneurship. Now, this is critical and important. When we are talking about entrepreneurship at an individual level, it is actually driven a lot by inner drive. Individuals have to be doing it irrespective of the external environment. Okay, this is important. However, there is a difference of entrepreneurship as an individual versus when it is being as a corporate. Why is it so? Because if an individual is driving everything, then he would rather go and drive it outside the large corporation that he's working in, because the advantage and fruits of it is not going to be eaten by him or her alone. So it is going to be eaten by the organization. Therefore, when we talk about organizational or corporate entrepreneurship, it essentially means creating an environment, creating a system, creating a structure which will identify such people who have the ability to do entrepreneurship, which can make. So again, I teach a case called 3M. In the introduction, you said, I worked for 3M. One of the interesting things that I picked up is during the era when Googles were not in the scene, 3M was known as one of the most entrepreneurial and innovative companies in the world. And this company had a very interesting way of looking at things. They said that excelling as an organization is not about having excellent people in the organization. Excelling in an organization is about making ordinary individuals deliver extraordinary results. Because extraordinary individuals have a lot of escape velocity. You understand escape velocity? They have a velocity, high velocity to escape from the organization. Ordinary individuals don't have so much of escape velocity. They remain within the orbit of the organization. So if an organization is expecting to do extraordinary things, which is innovation is an extraordinary thing. If an organization is expecting to do extraordinary thing by having extraordinary individuals, that probably may not be the best way of doing things. If we are talking about corporate entrepreneurship and innovation, it is about making ordinary individuals deliver extraordinary, outputs by creating a system, process, structure, culture, and all of that. So that is the difference between entrepreneurship and corporate entrepreneurship. Now, who are entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs are the person who pursue this activity of entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is a process which involves largely two kind of activities, which is discovery activities and delivery activities. So what is a discovery activity? Discovery activity is trying to do new stuffs, taking risks, experimenting, searching for the new. And what is a delivery activity? That all of you, like many of you, are already very, very expert in delivery, which is trying to build efficiency, trying to do the existing thing better, trying to cut costs, trying to do things in the, achieving operational efficiency, all of that. So contrary to usual belief that a new idea can create entrepreneurship, if you deep dive into the domain of entrepreneurship, you'll find that entrepreneurship actually is a process which requires both innovation and efficiency. It requires discovery and delivery. Okay. Now, why do large organizations faces problem of not being able to do entrepreneurship or new businesses or innovation? Because they're good in delivery, they find very hard to do the discovery part. And that is why when we talk about managing innovation, we are so much talking about creativity and invention and innovation, etc., right? However, if you have to close the full cycle, so what is the full cycle? You first need to have idea. An idea, when we are saying it is a novel idea, then an idea is a concept, but the only concept doesn't make a business happen. So the idea needs to be converted into an invention. Meaning now it can be seen, it can be felt. Subsequently, when the invention is commercialized, it is innovation. And when one makes a business out of it, it becomes entrepreneur. So to be able to make business or entrepreneurship, you require idea, but only idea is not enough. You have to convert it into an invention. The invention can be radical, it can be incremental, it can be product, it can be process, it can even be business model. Today, we are talking about converting pipeline businesses to platform businesses, and no reason why even companies like SAIL cannot be a platform. That doesn't mean you convert the entire organization into a platform, but certain activities of yours can be certainly converted into a platformized kind of an operation. Okay, your entire vendor management can be a platform. Your front end can be platform. There are different segments of the activities which can be platformized. So it can operate like a Uber, so Uberized. And this is the new ways of thinking, right? So it is not needed that the entire set of the organization gets converted, but bits and pieces where there is some scope, those bits and pieces of the organization can get renewed and rejuvenated through embedding such kind of new thoughts. So hereafter, I would try to treat entrepreneurship and innovation as same thing. Though I said that as you make business out of innovation, it becomes entrepreneurship. But largely, both these stages require both discovery and delivery. And therefore, just for an easiness, I will try to use entrepreneurship and innovation as an alternate to each other, right? Just for the easiness. I'll give you one more definition. Now, this is not getting into Ram Katha, though we have a tendency of doing that because we talk from, satellite town of Ayodhya. Lucknow is a satellite town of Ayodhya. The original name of Lucknow used to be Lakshman Nagri. So we have a tendency of at times doing Krishna Katha and Ram Katha coming from this area. But this is something to not do with Ram Katha. So this is actually has a relationship with, entrepreneurship. So I was writing, you saw that I wrote a book on, entrepreneurship, and while writing that book, suddenly it struck me, while I was looking at many other definitions and not feeling very comfortable with all of them to be subsumingly capturing this subject, I found this definition has a much greater capacity to subsume it. So I thought of sharing this idea with all of you as well. So this shloka reads, Yada yada hi dharmasya glarir bhavati bharata, abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijame. Paritranaaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. What does this mean? It means as and when adharma goes down, as and when adharma goes up, as and when dharma goes down, as and when there is a lot of glani in the system, and there is a lot of pain in the system, I manifest myself. I as in who? Who is the I here? In our discussion, this I is the entrepreneur, innovator. He does srijan, which is creativity and innovation. For what? For reducing adharma, for uplifting dharma, for resolving the pain of people. What is adharma in the context of business? Adharma in the context of business is inefficiency. So with inefficiency causes pain. So when we are talking about innovation, what are we essentially trying to solve? When we are talking about innovation, we are talking about solving scaled pains, and we are talking about solving inefficiencies. Not all inefficiencies. We cannot solve all inefficiencies. We are talking about solving inefficiencies which are causing large-scale creep to a lot of people. So in cases of organizations, what are the inefficiencies that you should be focusing on primarily? Inefficiencies which is affecting multiple stages of the business. Inefficiencies which is affecting multiple functions. Inefficiencies which a lot of people are cribbing about. Those are potentially good targets of innovation. Now, sometimes when I go to talk to certain platforms, people said, sir, we want to innovate, but how do we ideate? The easiest way to ideate is don't try to ideate. What you try to do is identify cribs, identify large-scale cribs, identify inefficiencies. That is very easy to do. All of us keep cribbing in organizations and out of organizations. And once you have identified those pains and cribs, find out solutions for that. And those are ideas, right? So I am just asking to reverse, rather than first ideating and then finding potential targets to find out where can this idea solve a problem. I'm saying go otherwise. First find out problems, first find out pains, first find out cribs and scaled cribs. Now you will see that what is the advantage of scaled crib. But before going there, let me also tell you that if you are trying to become an innovator or an entrepreneur at an individual level, your life is going to be like Krishna. You understand life like a Krishna? Life like a Krishna is actually not very good. All celebrations about Krishna started after his death. His personal life was not good. So if you are an innovator or an entrepreneur, be ready for life of a Krishna. You may be celebrated, but you will be celebrated after death. And you will have to fight with a lot of Kans and Asur and all of that. Because inefficiencies also have their masters. Inefficiencies persists not because everybody is against it. Inefficiencies persists because some powerful people gain from it and they are supporting and backing it. So if one is an innovator, they have to fight all these dushkrits. Paritrana sadhuna vinashaya dushkritam. So you cannot only do good to the good people, you have to also destroy the evil. And that is almost a political fight. And that requires a lot of resilience, that requires a lot of effort, that requires no, not to die attitude. And therefore, life is going to be a lot of struggle. Now, this is true for individual entrepreneurship and innovation. So can you expect us, so can you really complain as very senior managers, we are not getting Krishnas in the system? No, you cannot. Because if there are real Krishnas in the system, either they will be shunned or they will be put under carpet or they will be moved out of the organization. Because while we celebrate Krishna, we actually don't love a Krishna at our home. Okay, so if you see that the Krishnas are rebel in the system, they're fools, they're mad guys, and we do not really love mad people and fools and childishness, and that we don't like. We only love to have photos of people who are rebels. We don't want live people who are rebels, right? So it is therefore good to say that we want innovation, but we don't want all those rebellion in our home. So therefore, it is very difficult to have those Krishnas. And it is also very risky for self to become the Krishnas because you are under the threat of the Kans and the all the others in the system. So I rather advocate that the seniors in the organization, rather than being trying to become the Krishnas, you should rather try to be a Yashoda. You understand Yashoda, keepers of the Krishna, protectors of the Krishna. Because you have a political might, you have an intelligence, you have a wiseness, which Krishnas might not have. So you can provide that umbrella of Yashoda and provide that support system to the Krishna till they are ripe enough to be unleashed into the market. Okay, so a corporate entrepreneurship culture, system, process, structure shaped by the top leaders should be like an Ashoda umbrella for the Krishnas. Without that, it is very difficult to institutionalize innovation. Without this, innovation can happen because of couple of deserted fools and mads and rebels. But in some corner of the organization, they'll do it. It'll bring some changes and they will die. And then people might celebrate about them after their death or retirement, whatever it is. But it will get institutionalized only when the organization decides to play the role of a Yashoda. Now, if you see, let's bring in a little bit of current. So we are, we are mixing older thoughts and newer thoughts. If you see that generally innovation is a mix of three things, right? Desirability, viability, and feasibility. Now, you remember the term that I had said earlier, which is the term was that can we get scaled cribs? Now, crib itself is talking about desirability. If there is a crib and if I solve it, then it is desirable. And then how does thing becomes viable? Only if it has a size. So prima facie, if I'm anyway choosing scaled crib, two of these boxes are getting ticked at the start itself. And then I search for a feasible technology. When a desirable, viable, feasible technology meet with each other, it becomes a commercializable invention. So these are the three boxes which needs to be ticked. Why did I show you this? So I'll actually talk about design thinking for a very short period because it's very difficult to talk about design thinking. I can make you do something and experience. And therefore, I thought I'll build the case that why design thinking makes sense rather than talk about it, what is design thinking. So interesting thing about design thinking is that design thinking allows you to make these boxes get ticked, allows you to do a Krishna kind of a phenomenon without even realizing that you're doing it. Now, one of the elements of Krishna is while you celebrate Krishna is his ability to empathize. So भक्तों का जो दर्द है वो फील कर सकते हो. And that is the one of the quality which differentiates Krishna from rest of the others. When we are talking about innovation, as we go forward, we'll see what are some of the other things. So I'll get into this and I'll show you some of the characteristics. I'm showing you what are the different elements that an innovator requires. And in design thinking, all of this happens very naturally, right? What I'm showing you in this model. So if you see that what are the different things which are required to innovate is primarily three stuffs, which is courage to innovate. Second is certain behavioral skills. And third is cognitive skills to synthesize new inputs. Now, when we say courage, behavioral skills, what are the different skills? Questioning, observing, networking, and experimenting. Questioning is trying to be curious. Okay, curiosity is a very, very important element. Deep observation is again a very important element. Networking, because without networking, you will not get new information. You will not be able to talk to people, which are also again very, very important to develop innovation. Then experimenting is needed because we are talking about new things, and about new things, it is very difficult to get new ideas without experiments, which is again a very, very important skill, which you will find very common in those who are innovators. But and there is an associative thinking skill needed, which is essentially the ability to associate between very, very distant kind of things. It is the ability to draw from some other field and bring it into the field of that you want. So, for example, when we talk about EMIs, it's not that essentially it has come. I'm just trying to project it in a backward side. EMI is nothing different from sachetized shampoo. Okay. The concept of EMIs is very similar to the sachet shampoo, that you don't need to buy bulk or you don't need to pay in bulk. You can sachetize it. Now, I'm bringing this concept because when you're talking about innovation, one of the very easy ways to innovate is you don't try to do bottom up. You get outside in. You try and see what are the different things which is happening outside, associate with some of the things inside, and then try to do the innovation. Now, what is the thing which is needed along with that is the ability to challenge the status quo and take risk. And if you see, this ability to challenge the status quo and take risk is again, how do you become so powerful and courageous? One of the ways, and this you can reflect, अंतर्दृष्टि करके थोड़ा सा देखिएगा, कभी भी आप अपने लिए लड़ रहे हैं तो इतना जोर नहीं आता है, किसी और के लिए जब लड़ रहे हैं तो आपके दिल में जोर ज्यादा आता है. So when you're fighting for somebody else, when you're empathizing somebody else and then trying to fight with somebody else, your courage is usually much higher. Because that is how we are built. And therefore, what I'm posing is that one of the important things which makes you courageous is passion. The source for passion can be empathy. When you feel the problem for somebody, you are so very soaked in that problem, you become irrationally passionate. And in your irrational passion, you become courageous. This is the same thing which works for, very interesting, I'll bring a metaphor, okay? See what is coming up. A lover who is mad for his beloved, an entrepreneur mad for solving a problem, a soldier ready to die for the nation, a terrorist trying to fight for a cause, all operate at a very, very irrational level. Why? Because they are passionate about something. What brought their passion is empathy for somebody. So empathy is a very, very high power. And in design thinking, which I'll now get into, empathy is used as a primary ingredient to trigger thoughts of innovation. Okay, that is the power of empathy, right? So as of now, I have built the background why innovation is important for organizations. In the context of innovation, why design thinking can be an interesting model. But just one more slide before going there, that when we are talking about problem solving, usual models of problem solving can be, we pick up a problem and then we just try to do brainstorm and solve it. Here I have said no, but in general, if it is a typical usual problem, you have been solving it always, and there are existing thesis of solving it, it's a perfectly good way of solving it. But this problem solving approach is not good if the problem is wicked, if the problem is hard, if the problem is complex, if the problems, so I have mentioned quite a few problems, general problems, okay? Drug abuse, climate change, family planning, making homeless people get out from government property. So which means anywhere a lot of human complexity is involved along with the technical complexity. So today we are talking about machine-human interaction. Automation, when you are doing automation, we are talking about machine-human interaction, which is again a very, very complex thing. So anywhere a lot of human activities and machine activities are involved, where complexities of humans are involved, their deep-seated habits are involved, their design thinking has a much greater role to play. And that is where design thinking should be used. Design thinking is not a panacea for all kind of problems. It is a method to solve difficult, tough, challenging, complex, human, and some of these complexities because of human nature and habits and tendencies, and interaction of humans, and interaction between humans and machines. And that is the domain where design thinking is to be used. So what is the approach that we are trying to take in design thinking? We don't try to solve the problem straight away. We rather question that, do we need to look into this problem in a very, very different fashion? Do we deep dive into observations and then deep insights? You reframe the problem, you find out an opportunity area, you ideate concept development and solution. So it is again not a one single iteration. There are multiple iteration which needs to be done, through which gradually, so it's like a doodh ka manthan, the cream gradually comes up through multiple rounds of iteration. Here I have shown it in a very, very simplified fashion, but it requires multiple rounds of iteration. If I show it, it is the same. So I'm showing it through multiple diagrams, but it is the same thing. Design thinking, as we said, because it involves empathizing, it is also known as human-centered design, because humans are at the center. If I try to see it as a 5-step process, the steps are empathizing, defining, ideating, prototyping, and testing. So what are you trying to do? The first stage. So let me go to the next one. This will probably help you to understand it better. So we are asking 4 questions. What is the problem? So in design thinking, we assume that you do not have enough understanding of the problem. And therefore, a simplified version is trying to say, using this word, the first effort is to know the problem with as much of deep immersion as possible. The second stage is trying to understand, what if there was no constraint in the world? So ideating without constraint. And the third step is trying to understand what will work and what will wow the customer, what will wow the beneficiary. So which is, in a simplified version, I would label it as idea reality interaction. Most of the time when we are solving problem, we are too bothered about what will work and what will not work. In design thinking, we say first understand the problem. Second, you try to find out a solution, assuming that there is no constraint in the world of any kind, and then try to gradually look out for what will work and what is possible given the reality that we are in. What it does is it improves the solution space from a local optimized solution to a global optimization of solutions. So many of you work in optimization, and I'm sure you understand this local versus global optimization. Design thinking has a capacity to shift the orbit from local optimization to global optimization. I'll skip rather because I think we are already. So let me straight go off to some of the applications that is possible. So there are lot of applications. So the example that I skipped, I'll just say it in short. A municipality in Denmark was suffering a lot because their seniors, matlab those who are old aged people, they have a program to feed them, and these people were not eating the feed which was giving to them, which was essentially leading to more health costs. The health costs were rising. So they wanted to solve that problem, and they used design thinking, and they solved that problem. Interesting finding was, the problem was not with food per se. The problem was with the way they were given that food. The feeling that they were having that we are at the mercy of somebody. The feeling that we are almost dead vegetables now, and we have to feed on somebody else's, daya and dakshina. And much of that was solved using design thinking. Okay, and not only food problem was solved, because food problem led to nutrition, nutrition led to health problem. It solved a lot of health costs and health problem for the municipality which was having this problem. So today, design thinking is being used by FMCG companies, municipalities, governments, health, education, multiple fields, right? And I just found out quite a few examples which is applicable in case of steel industries. What we found was that product innovation, it can be used in product innovation. Will come, just show you one example. And till that time I will ask you to guess what example I'm talking about. And this is one of the competitors that you might be competing with. Then it can be used for process optimization. A lot of this is being used in last two options that we are talking about, because these are very, very complex problems. Both digital transformation and sustainability are very, very complex problems. And worldwide, multiple IT consulting firms are using design thinking to solve multiple digital transformation problems. A lot of sustainability consultants, they are also using design thinking as a concept to solve sustainability problems. So these are some of the areas where design thinking can be applied in your industry. Now, the example that I was talking about is Pravesh doors. Just think of the interesting application. Before this, nobody thought that I will use the might of steel with a casing of a wood, which would look like wood, and get it applied to a door. At the background of this idea, which looks, as of now, which looks like to a very simple idea. And the beauty of design thinking is that when the output is out in the market, it appears that ये तो बहुत आसान solution है यार. But to get to that solution, there was a lot of deep diving, lot of interaction with customers, talking to customer, iterating, co-working, co-developing, prototyping, all of these steps that we talked about was done in the backgrounds. So Pravesh Duor was one of the methods, the dominant method which went background of coming out with this product. And more than me, all of you would be aware what kind of opportunity these kind of solutions can create for the company. Because even if you're a B2B company, remember that your stock market prices and employability branding, multiple branding also depends on your B2C branding. So even if you are a B2B company, you must have good B2C branding to improve the brand in the minds of your different stakeholders. Be they FII, be they DII, be they the individual investor, be they your employees, be they your vendors. Because trying to become a brand as a B2B is difficult. Trying to become a brand as a B2C is easy. And you can leverage the B2C branding in your B2B spaces. Okay, so today, many of the commodity companies, whether it is cement, whether it is steel, you would find Asian Paints, see the kind of branding that they're getting into in spite of being a commodity product. Because once you do the B2C level branding, that starts helping you in B2B, because individuals are individuals. Okay, if today I get excited by a particular brand, I will be making business decisions for my company, and I naturally I will have a bias towards that brand. Okay, so B2C branding does finally ends up in B2C advantages. And because of the engagement that we have already started having with SAIL, I know some of the B2C great opportunities that you have, which you are not encashing right. Okay, and I think there is a huge opportunity. Any of you who are working in this B2C space, here's a huge opportunity of applying design thinking in that context. Another interesting example that I would like to bring in front of you, that in the world of startups, a lot of design thinking is getting applied. And one of your another global competitor called ArcelorMittal is using a lot of these kind of design thinking. So in fact, they're actually doing a lot in the collaborative innovation space. They're opening acceleration program, they're opening incubation program, they've opened up venture capital program. And some of you, if you're interested, you can note down XCarb. So XCarb is an innovation fund on which they are working, and this is to solve. This is to make carbon neutral steel by 2050 or 2060, whatever targets they have set. And they're doing a lot of investment in startups through venture capital as well as through their acceleration programs. And in many of these programs that they're doing, there is a lot of usage of design thinking in the product development and idea development and concept development. So this is, again, I am just giving you some of the triggers. A little bit of this should also be available on web. And I'm just doing all of this to first increase your curiosity, because it is very difficult to teach you design thinking. I can trigger you for that, right? And that is what I'm trying to do. The third example, and this is again something which all of you from steel would also know about this company called POSCO. And these people have used it for smart factory, and they are using it a lot for digital transformation of their operations. We are having 5 minutes. I think I'm towards the end of the slide. Should it be okay to take those, because we would not have too much of time for the questions? Is it good, Rajesh, to go forward
Yes,
with
sir.
this?
Yes, sir. We can
I
continue
might
for
take
a
7
couple of
more
more
minutes.
minutes.
Is
Yes.
that right? Okay. So I'll just play the video, a little bit of that. Let me know if the sound is there. The sound is there? Sound was there?
Uh,
No,
no.
No.
sound.
Maybe, sir, I can share. If you give me the link, I will share the later
So
to the.
I'll just, no, I just need to share the sound of the. Okay.
So it would be fine also if you can just discuss. I will share the link later also if it doesn't work.
Let's play a little bit and then I'll share the
Okay,
link.
sir.
Human evolution. And now, digital technology, the most innovative tool in human history, has ushered us into the era of DX. POSCO DX, that's our name. We go beyond the boundaries of an IT and OT company and create greater value for customers, businesses, and people's lives by integrating DX technology into industry and daily lives. DX technology for a better world. We are POSCO DX. POSCO DX has transformed POSCO Steelworks, Korea's first lighthouse factory, into a smart factory. We collect and analyze data from the field to monitor the operations at our production sites. With the application of AI, the operation of our facilities is optimized. When a factory is operated, data enables all workers to produce the same quality that masters with 20 to 30 years experience. With the latest technology of 5G-based digital twin made available at our factories, the newly introduced autonomous factory lets our employees perform simulations in a virtual space identical to the actual production site. The technology and know-how we have accumulated in the course of transforming our steelworks into a smart factory has spread to secondary battery and other eco-friendly materials, construction, energy, logistics, and training, leading the digital transformation of the Korean industry. We are implementing an unmanned automated system based on the control system for the unit equipment and the entire process of the factories that we have developed. The unmanned crane technology moves hundreds of tons of steel products. In the 3D warehouse, the unmanned mobile robots automatically ship secondary battery materials and products. In addition, we diagnose and analyze energy consumption trends at industrial sites to provide ways for efficient operation and promote the use of eco-friendly energy sources. POSCO DX has also introduced a robot automation system at high-intensity, high-risk production sites to enhance productivity and safety.
I'll share the link, you can see it later. But it is not about saying what are the different things that they are doing. But why I played it, many of these things have happened by usage of design thinking. Right? So that is also what I wanted to talk about. So now I'll come to the last 2-3 slides. Now the entire talk has happened a lot about innovation, right? But I consider strategy more as an act of balancing rather than doing one of the activities a lot. So while I have been propagating in this, about an hour or so, why should innovation happen and what does innovation do and how can you do innovation? What kind of characteristics is required for doing innovation? What are the ways like using design thinking for innovation? This slide is about cautioning you that when you get into the journey of innovation, it's not about doing only innovation. We are talking about innovation for all large organizations because they have gone imbalanced into too much of focus on efficiency. That is why we are talking about innovation. But essentially, it is more about balancing. What kind of balancing? Which I said at the start, that for managing essentially survival and growth, you need to do all three of this: creation, maintenance, and destruction. So I would like you to have this idea in your innovation portfolios, as well as your business portfolios, as well as your capability portfolios, that one must keep on doing creation, destruction, and maintenance of stability. All three are important, okay? Because without that, organization would get imbalanced. So that is a caution statement that I wanted to put because the entire talk was primarily about innovation. Now, when I'm talking about balancing, though I'm not able to really see whether this, our attendees are balanced or not, but I have to become a little more gender balanced. So I had to think of, giving balancing three gods with three goddesses. Though these are metaphors, though, okay. So if you don't believe in gods and you are an atheist, just take it as a metaphor. Okay? You don't need to really believe in them. You can take it as a concept. So what we are saying is that if you focus on business as usual, status quo maintenance, that gives you Lakshmi, which is great and which is important to have. And even to maintain innovation, you actually need a very, very, very strong Lakshmi. Without a background of strong Lakshmi, you cannot even do innovation. Second, when we are talking about innovation, which is a Brahma act, innovation actions cannot happen unless at the background it is shaped by L&D activities. It is supported by organizational knowledge management and organizational knowledge management infrastructure and culture. So to Sanjay and Natanu, I'm giving you an ammunition for the board. Whenever you ask for extra budgets for board, you have to pitch it, saying without L&D investments, without this knowledge and architecture development, it cannot support innovation. Without innovation, you cannot have growth, right? So there is a very strong need of investment in Saraswati and the environment to have excitement around Saraswati activity to be able to propagate innovation. Second important factor, when you're driving innovation, again, what I see in multiple organizations is while you're driving innovation, your focus is still Lakshmi. While if you realize that we are saying that to really get Lakshmi at the end, you must first look out for Saraswati. So in innovation management, there should be two goals. First, Saraswati goals and then Lakshmi goals. If you get over-focused on Lakshmi goals, then innovation outputs will be low quality and innovation outputs will not be sustainable. And this problem I see in organizations after organizations, okay? Now, design thinking is a method which requires a lot of patience and which requires to have you believe that Saraswati goals are critical, are important, are primarily antecedent of future Lakshmi goals. So that balance should be there. The another element that we talked about in design thinking, which is empathy, is what I want to showcase through Devi Durga. That we are talking about killing, which is Shiva, but only killing creates a lot of wish and blood in the system. If you want to detoxify the effect of blood and wish in the system, empathy is critical and important. And therefore, even if you are not innovating, still believing in this power of empathy, and it will become more and more important as you become seniors in the organization. Empathizing and having empathy is a very, very important component, both for managing destruction and reducing the toxic effect of blood and wish. And we said already that empathy is already a critical ingredient for creative and new thinking, right? So thank you so much. I hope that the session gives you some interesting triggers and thoughts, and you go back and have a lot of Antardrishti and do some Antraprerna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We are now open to the question and answers. And thank you, sir. You may also directly ask the question to sir. He's over here. Or you can use the chat box also. Post the questions then. Just wait a couple of seconds. Anyone wants to ask any question, they can enter it directly. Considering the paucity of time, we'll try to limit the questions.
Everybody is deep in Antardrishti.
No. Good evening. Good evening. I'm Praveen Balla from Bhilai.
Boliye ji.
Just wanted to understand, sir. There are sometimes 4 things to do at one time.
Yeah.
And all 4 things are priority. So how do you prioritize those 4 things as priority one, priority one, priority one, and priority one?
Oh, so I don't know. It is not essentially related with this session, but I'll still try to answer. You annoy some people and you satisfy some people. That's the easiest way out. So I would say that, don't take it in a different way. That how do you prioritize, and you are pretty senior, how did you prioritize between your mother and your wife? Is the way to prioritize between priority 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right? You just take care of one of these at a time and annoy the other and then roll it back take care of the other at a time and annoy the other, right? So you cannot, make everybody happy and every priority happy at the single point in time. As of now, this is what I can share.
Sir, I can agree with you, but professionally, because there plays the diplomacy, and you cannot be a diplomacy.
No, you have to be. You have to be. That is what I said again. If I gave you this example of Krishna, you have to be a politician and a diplomat. There's no other way. If you are not becoming that, you are only increasing your thyroid problems.
I got your point, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm sure, sir, there are many concepts, and I'm getting the comments also in chat box that they are mesmerized by your knowledge. So probably they are observing also. I have, sir, one question on my chat box. So can I read it, please?
Yeah, sure.
What advice would you give to the leaders who want to foster innovation in a hierarchical setup, sir? So
largely, if you see some of the things that I said, that start getting, because all of you are very senior and will become only more senior. Identify how can you become a Yashoda. That was one of the important message, right? I am not advocating to such senior people. I'm not advocating to be Krishnas. Okay, I'm advocating for how can you develop a Yashoda umbrella under your unit of the organization. And that is a preparation how you will be able to do it when you become even more senior, either within your organization, because SAIL, I'm sure, is a breeding ground from a lot of EDs and MDs, CMDs for other organizations. So as you develop that Yashoda competency, your next assignment of ED, CMD in many other organizations will not only breed innovation in SAIL, but it will breed innovation in the entire industrial ecosystem of the country.
True, sir. Thank you, sir. We wanted to continue and ask more questions, sir, but considering the paucity of time and also respecting our seniors.
Hello.
Sir, please.
Sir, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Am I audible?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
sir.
audible. But I would have
sir.
loved to see you as well. ये पूरा आप ब्लैक झंडा लेके पूछते तो फिर मुझे साइमन गोबैक याद आता.
Hello. Am I
Yes, sir.
audible?
You can ask, sir.
Please go ahead.
Sir, this is Anuj Nidhi from Durgapur Steel Plant, sir.
Yes.
I have through your session. Very nicely it has been integrated with our Gita also.
Yes.
And finally you have concluded with the Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. As it, one is the AD project, other is AD works, and third is destroyed and again go back to the AD. So plant should run in that cycle. That is very much true. And the most important thing, what I have understood, that inefficiency is adharma.
Yes.
Inefficiency is adharma in the context of business premise. And we have to identify inefficiency and destroy it, applying the all prudence and acumen the way Lord Krishna has applied.
And politics. I must add this word politics.
Politics
is not bad. Politics is not bad.
Yes. If it is going in favor of dharma. Yes.
If it is going in favor of dharma, yes. See, whether you want or you don't want, politics for other will also happen. So to fight the politics for other, you must do the politics of dharma.
Yes. Politics is also one tool which is contributing towards how the dharma should further get glorified.
Right.
That is true, sir. That is a very wonderful message. But the most important thing, what I have understood, sir, that there are so many small Krishna as soon as they join the organization. Okay. But unfortunately, these small Krishna, those at the level of E1, E2, E3, E4, if they are not nurtured and protected the way you have stated, like a Jasoda Mata Chhatri, then slowly these small Krishna also becomes inefficient,
Yes.
So that is the flow where we have to work hard. How to get a Jasoda kind of Chhatri in the organization, so that the small Krishna will become tomorrow a senior person and bring in some innovation and make the radical transformation of the organization.
True, sir.
Thank you, sir. That is what I am trying to understand in this session.
One more
Thank
question.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you,
nicely
sir.
explained.
Sir.
Thank you.
Good,
Does empathy
good evening, sir. May I ask a question if you allow? Sorry,
Yes, please. Please, please.
sir. Yeah, very good evening, sir. I am Arvind Prakash Naik. I recently joined SAIL. This subject is new for me. I am asking one question connected to Ramayana. So many times we find that challenges are there are so many talent are there in the pockets and they don't get the right mentees. So I am Hanuman. How to find the right Jamwan in terms of sale to reach in the greater heights?
तो आपको अयोध्या आना पड़ेगा इतना आप कठिन सवाल पूछ रहे हैं हम इतने शॉर्ट टाइम में कैसे आंसर दे that is a very difficult question, like the question is very interesting, but it's very difficult question. If somebody gets an answer for that, his life is sorted. So these are all individual searches which one has to do. Getting a guru and that what you're talking about is something which is one of the primary search of life. And there is somewhere some guru meant for you. It's only a matter of time. That is what we can say as of now.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, thank you all the participants. May I would not request Sanjay Dhar, sir, to give some summary processing, but I'm sure, sir, with this level of the participant, they have internalized the topic, sir, and it's made your job quite easier, sir. But, sir, we would request you, Sanjay, sir, to please, sir.
Thank you, Rajesh, and thank you, Professor Sinha, for such a delightful session and such a thought-provoking session. I think our purpose was served in terms of trying to address the basic issue of driving innovation through empathy in the organization and reorienting the mindset to start laying focus and attention on what is it that is ailing the organization, what are our cribs in the organization, and how do we really address them. So all our cribs and all our issues with the organization becoming the feedstock for ideating and finding out new solutions and easing the pain is a mindset that we all need to cultivate. And also appreciate the fact that being an innovator in a large setup is not simple. It's not easy. It requires alignments, political guile, taking some people whose comfort level is getting challenged head on. So being a Krishna is not easy, as you said, and we all need to develop ourselves as Yashodas. So I think that's a very good metaphor for all of us because this is a group of senior people. We need to act like Yashodas, and we have a lot of Krishnas. I think Anunidhi also mentioned the same thing. You gave us some very interesting perspective on why it is important, because when you said we are living in a VUCA world, and if we really need to manage the VUCA-ness of our environment, then we need to have that sufficient innovation within our own system, because that helps us to cope. And for that, we need to have the kind of mindset which will address that. So that was very interesting for us to reflect upon. Again, that issue of knowledge discovery and and delivery, the focus on innovation and efficiency, and how to balance both of them. I think that's also a very important part for us. So if we can create the space for more innovation and more discovery, which can be a chaotic process, and then channelize that into more efficiency, where a lot of our experience does come in handy. That would really, help our organization manage a lot of transformational changes without breaking up, without, things getting out of sync. So that focus on renewal and rejuvenation, again, that's very important. Thank you for that very, strong insight which connects with us at a personal level of inefficiency being adharma. I think
all said and done, whatever be our faith, India, Eastern people are religious. So when if we are connected to dharma, then we connect to the idea very strongly. So when you said inefficiency is adharma, then it really becomes something to really defeat. So that was a very interesting insight. You talked about again, innovation has to be desirable, viable, and feasible. And again, that issue of empathy, that issue of managing the politics, and managing the parameters of efficiencies is very important. You gave us a good concept of the DNA of an innovator in terms of the courage to innovate, then the behavioral skills in which it gets reflected, and the cognitive skills. And again, when you talked about associative thinking, you're again talking about taking in inputs from all sides. That was very interesting. Good insights on appreciating that just because we got a hammer, everything is not a nail. It's always better to use tools appropriate to the kind of issues that they are addressing. So we really want to leverage design thinking. We should focus on wicked problems. And frankly enough, we should be solving wicked problems. The simpler ones can be solved by our team members. And there was a very interesting insight, which I remember from our first interaction when I had with Professor Sinha. When he came to the corporate office, that was the first time he saw a Salem bottle. He didn't know that we also made this thing. And that is the time we had this conversation about the retail products becoming a brand for us, even if, they're not a big part of our overall basket of budgets. Thank you for sharing all those insights. And again, I'll use this platform to highlight the fact that, and assure Professor Sinha that our major problem is not budgets. I would love to get people's time and focus. The budgets we'll get. If people give their time and focus for learning, creating a learning culture, acting as Yashodas for a lot of people who are trying to do a lot of creative things, I think we will more than get our budget. We will get a bonus on our budget. Thank you all for your active participation, and thank you, Professor Sinha, once again for such a wonderful interaction.
Thank
So,
you.
Rajesh, I think we can close it at
We
that.
will close it, sir. Thank you all, sir.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much.
Professor,
Thank you. Thank
for
you.
joining. Thank you. Thank you all the participants. We'll now close the session, and looking forward to see you again on the next session with the next paper. Thank you, sir.